Mark, today we're going to talk about whether you're in your head or your heart. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this one. Well, Mark, welcome to Breaking Biscuits, the experience. And today we're going to discuss something that's prevalent that we see with men, but it's not just strictly for men. It can be for women as well. And kind of the title of our podcast today is, Are You in Your Head or Your Heart? And we just kind of want to explore these two thoughts, of the difference between the head and the heart, and some of the things that we've seen with some of the couples that we've worked with, some of the men that we've worked with. And you kind of have an interesting take on this. We were discussing it earlier, is there's kind of a feminine side to it and a masculinity side to it, even in a spiritual context. So kind of walk us through that first, so we can kind of get the baseline set of what we're talking about today, and then we can kind of put some practical aspects to it.
Well, I'm really glad to talk about it. It's something that everyone should at least know something about. But in Genesis 1:26, I think it's God said, "Let us make man in our own image and likeness." A lot of church people, whatever, says you're made in the image of God. But the truth is, you're made in the image and the likeness. That's the real truth. And I remember, Toby, about a year or two ago, I just started parking my mind there, and the word image is a masculine noun, and the word likeness is a feminine noun. And I did research, and I said, does the Hebrew matter what's feminine and masculine? That's the beauty about the Hebrew language, is, and the Greek and all those things, is they have a connotation to it, like what they were really trying to mean there. And so when it says, let us make man in our own image, male and female made he them. Which makes sense, because males have an X and a Y chromosome. So God is called, our defender, warrior, but he's also El Shaddai, the many-breasted one. He's the father. You can't. It has been said that he's the father and the spirit's the mother. So however you unwrap that, I tend to believe that there's a masculine, I don't want to say male, but a masculine part to our life, and a feminine, not a female, but a feminine energy, power part of our life. And one of them is, critical thinking and logic and whatever, and the other one's feeling. But you had a really good twist on how to just tell your story, because that's what started this whole thing.
The story about me living in my head.
Well, you have some really good insight, and we actually exercised it in Breaking Biscuits.
Yeah, obviously the masculine side, when you talk about relating it to critical thinking, logic, those are non-emotional aspects. So it's a way to solve a problem or address an issue, or let's just call it communication. It's a way to communicate at a head thinking or cerebral level, because you're analyzing, you're weighing things, you're critical thinking, trying to solve a problem, all through your communication to the other party or parties at the same time. And where I think the opposite of that, the contrary side of that, is the feminine side you described, which is more emotional. And I think it has something to do with how you believe about something, how you feel about something. You put your feelings, your beliefs, and you weigh that together to come up with, the same position solution in your communication style. And I went through this process. It's actually been about 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years in January, where I had to learn how to quit talking out of my head. Meaning, like, every conversation I've ever had in my life, I used my brain to communicate. And I just didn't drop inside of my heart to communicate what I was feeling, or what was really going on the inside of me. And kind of what dawned on me was, the head and the heart are supposed to be connected, but I was using my head to protect my heart. I didn't want anybody close to my heart because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to get hurt. I didn't want to get rejected. So consequently, I just used my brain to keep those two separated and use the head to protect my heart. And I found life is much easier when you use both. And I've developed this skill to be able to know when I'm in my heart and when I'm in my head. It's very apparent to me. And sometimes you're supposed to be in your head. Like, you're solving a complex analytical problem. Your heart's not going to help you a lot.
Yeah. Or how you feel about it.
Yeah, or how you feel about it. If you're talking to your wife, you might want to drop into your heart a bit. So consequently, I've recognized, sometimes too late, but I still can tell if I stop and analyze it, like just listen to myself, I know. And then I can tell, because I've learned that for myself, it's really easy for me to spot men that are in their head versus their heart. Like, I can point one out in like 2 seconds. And it's because I've been one and I am one. So it's easy to recognize. Where you're like, to me, you're opposite than I am. You're more, you have that mystical, spiritual kind of essence about you, which forces you to evaluate things at a heart level. And so I think naturally you come across that way, and your communication style is that way. And I'm sure people can tell on the podcast, I come across as, analyzing and looking at it from different angles. You come across, more of that heartfelt, mystical side. And the point is, we need both in our life, and we need to know how to drop in and out of those areas of our life.
It's been said that all empathy comes from the feminine energy. I think because I have locked myself away and for so many years and just communed with Holy Spirit, I adapted this. I don't want to just say emotional, but it's spiritual, but it's something that I can't describe, but I have that thing. And I'll tell you how I came into this. I'll just be honest. I came to this study 2 years ago because a young man who had discovered that he was gay, love him dearly, great respect for him. Of course, I don't know what everyone's take is on that, but he told me, he said, you know what? Everybody's a little gay. It just depends on how much you are. And after I did this study, I went back to him and I said, you know what? You're hearing from the Spirit, because what you're really saying is everybody has this certain kind of energy, and some are tapped in and some are not. And so that's how I got started on this. And it wound up being, I really believe that Bishop Ash used to say a new heaven and a new earth is a new heaven and a new earth. But I want to ask you, when you're in your, I remember, I got to say this, when we were fixing to have a woman president, it was a masculine energy saying, well, we don't want her having the finger on the bomb, right? Which is so unfair.
Right.
Because she wouldn't even made it that far in her life without walking in her masculine truth, having So we're not saying because you're female you don't have analytical, critical thinking, and we're not saying because you're man you don't have the capability to have compassion and empathy. But what we're saying is we should explore it. We should practice it in our homes. We should, practice it with each other, because it's just our world, Men aren't supposed to cry, and women are too emotional, which is so silly to me. And we've been taught all our life that men are tough and mean and whatever, and women are soft. If you're emotional, you're soft, Toby. If you have compassion or whatever, you're soft. But if you're the other side of the coin, then you're mean and hateful and angry.
Yeah, and I come from the business world, and I know like some of the brightest business leaders I know are females. And they're great critical thinkers. And I also know some men that are very tapped in emotionally to what's going on around them. Because if you can't tap into the emotional aspect of humans, it's impossible to be like a high level executive. You have to be able to tap into that. So I totally agree. It's not a male or female thing, but I think we have a tendency to default to the one or another. So what question I have for you, Mark, when like you're talking to couples, you have a man that's living like say 95, 99% in that analytical male headspace. You have a female living in the more feminine state, more emotional state. Does that create communication barriers?
Yeah, because they're both right and they're both wrong at the same time. To them, they're being not authentic by standing in their truth, but what they don't realize is they have not seen the other person from the other side. But to them, in their own heart, they're like, well, I'm just not being true to myself, and they're getting bitter and frustrated and all that. But that's a part of vulnerability, Toby, that what I've been practicing in my life is how does my life affect my wife, and I have to observe it. Does it make her feel connected? Or, that's a constant. You know how our Wi-Fi is always looking for another place to connect? That's what I do. I'm always observing what my actions and words and comments, and I want to get feedback. I want to know where I'm connected. And a lot of people, if you're disconnected and you just want to stay in one energy or the other, you just throw it out there and don't care what happens. But the truth is, you do want connection, because Brene Brown says we are wired for connection. That is how we are made. And it's a tragedy that people, I was telling my wife last night about there's sometimes people that get wounded and they get stuck in their process, right? And they lash out and become these strong-minded, hurt people's feelings person, bull in a china closet person. They don't tap into their feminine energy to soften. And you know what we do? We tell them, well, that's just the way they are. Like, no, you're wounded and broken, and you're afraid. I like what you say, because it's not a male or female, but talk about, because you said I'm a very analytical and critical thinker and all that, but I see you as just the opposite in a lot of ways. But how did you even when you're critical and all those things, you still had these feelings inside, these emotions about it. How did you, first of all, did you realize that? And second of all, how did you let this go?
Well, I needed help to get there. Like I had to have outside help to understand where I was missing it. So once I recognized it, then I had to learn how. I call it dropping the guard in a way, because it's like, for me, that's what it feels like. It's like I'm up here and I'm guarding it. I'm guarding my heart away. I'm using my head to guard my heart. So I like when I drop that guard, and it usually requires me to take a breath and to pause and to be observant of what emotions are going on inside of me, what I feel, and like quit protecting myself. It goes back, everything we talk about on this podcast goes to vulnerability. The moment you go, I'm not protecting myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel what I feel, but I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to drop my guard. I'm just going to speak what's really going on. It's like now I'm in my heart. And it just goes so much better. Hey, Mark, great discussion. Sorry you had to attend to some other matters. You couldn't stay with us on the podcast. We'll continue this discussion in next week's podcast if you're in your head or your heart. And we just want to encourage everybody out there to, just like we were discussing, just drop into your heart, speak from your heart, and reconnect, with your loved one, reconnect with your spouse, reconnect with your children by dropping into your heart and staying out of your head. And so much more to share. We just want to remind you also that we have a Breaking Biscuits event coming up in the month of January, at the end of January. Drop us a note on Facebook and let us know if you have an interest in attending. We have 5 slots for couples, and we'd love to have you in Branson, Missouri, in the last, I think it's the last week of January. So until next time, this is Breaking Biscuits. We love you guys, and God bless.